pleased to say I'm joined now by Husam Zomlot, Palestinian ambassador to the United Kingdom. Mr. Zomlot, thank you very much for joining us here on the programme. It has been, and you and I have spoken on a number of occasions, an incredibly difficult 9 or 10 months for the people of Gaza, for the Palestinian people, and of course for the families of the hostages here in this country. We have seen an eruption here of demonstrations because people are demanding from their Prime Minister for a ceasefire deal. Your reaction to the events of the last few days?
Disheartening, and really tells you all what you need to know. I mean, you have an Israeli Prime Minister who has decided that he does not want the hostages back. He does not want a ceasefire. And his calculation is very clear. It's personal, because he knows the moment a ceasefire deal is reached, he is done. And for ideological. I mean, the world saw his map only last night in his press conference, whereby the West Bank didn't exist. This is a person, that is Netanyahu, that sees the future only that, a future without the Palestinian people. And that's why he's doing what he is doing. It's a war of extermination for him against the Palestinian people. He has not been targeting any militias for that matter. The world have followed what happened over the last 11 months. So our hopes now is sufficient pressure is mounting on this Israeli government, so actually they do heed the existing ceasefire deal that has been on the table since May. And remember, it was President Biden who has offered that in May, and then it was a Security Council resolution. And since then, Netanyahu has been every day changing the goalpost, maneuvering everybody, outmaneuvering everybody, trying to outsmart everybody simply because he's not interested in his own people. And that's why you see all these demos in Israel and worldwide.
Yeah, Mr. Zomlot, as you say, there are accusations even from within his cabinet, from his defense minister, who has accused Mr. Netanyahu of attempting to derail the ceasefire negotiations over this Philadelphia corridor. But let's talk about Hamas's position, because we saw these 6 hostages executed, and Hamas has admitted that it has changed its strategy, that it is now asking for its fighters to kill and execute hostages if they feel that the Israeli military is going to come and extract them from Gaza militarily.
No, Yalda, if you want to talk about Hamas, speak to Hamas, please. Our position here as the State of Palestine and the government of Palestine is very clear. We wanted from day one an immediate and permanent ceasefire, a ceasefire of that atrocious aggression, genocidal aggression. We want to make sure that humanitarian assistance is reaching its destination without any obstacles, and we wanted to move swiftly towards an international process of accountability, because we don't want to see this repeated again. And therefore we believe that it is Netanyahu, and squarely Netanyahu and on Netanyahu, that has been derailing all this process. So let's not get into the details. What is happening in the West Bank is all what you need to know.
I guess the details.
All what you need to know, Yalda.
Yeah, absolutely. And
go on.
And I'd like to talk about the West Bank. Because I did speak to former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert today, who expressed outrage and anger at the situation in the West Bank, and I'd like you to comment on that. But in terms of the finger of blame being pointed on Netanyahu, which the Israeli people are doing, but also, do you feel that given Hamas's stance now on executing and I know you're saying I need to speak to Hamas, but they are part of this equation in terms of whether a peace deal is reached or not for the Palestinian people?
Well, that's why we believe that all the good work of mediators over the months have fruited in a deal that was offered to all parties. According to what we have heard from the mediators, the deal was ready, and Netanyahu was the one who rejected it and kept changing the goalpost. I mean, didn't you hear Israeli officials today, including Gantz and Eisenkot, saying that Philadelphia corridor has no security meaning and Netanyahu is using it as a pretext? So what? What do you want us to do, Yelda, in this conversation? He is to be blamed. The Israeli government is to be blamed. These group of fanatics, Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, that are the landlords of the West Bank now, and unleashing unprecedented terror on the Palestinian people, stealing more land, allowing the settler violence and terrorism all over the West Bank. And you have also followed the Israeli military invasions of Jenin and Tulkarem and other places, the utter destruction and murder of innocent lives. And therefore, yes, we should not just waste our time or just focus on the small details. The big picture. Netanyahu told the world yesterday that he has no plan. The future he sees is a future without one Palestinian, not one. And this is the conversation. What else? And that's why we have been calling on the UK government, on the US, on the international community to take action rather than just taking resolutions and piling these international resolutions, UN Security Council resolutions. We have more than 80 resolutions now in the Security Council unimplemented, and create leverage with such an Israeli government, including the issue of arms embargo. And you may have followed that the UK government yesterday announced a partial suspension of some weapons exportation to Israel. But also we are working with the international community on the issue of sanctioning all this ecosystem of the illegal settlements and the occupation that is sponsoring these illegal settlers, especially in light of the clear ruling of the International Court of Justice that Israel's presence in the occupied territory is unlawful and illegal. And here, there is such a responsibility on the international community, because let me say this from my heart, Yelda, it shouldn't take us any argument. We should not even be arguing with UK government or any other government that they should cease exporting arms to Israel. I mean, this is such a clear-cut case, and had we implemented international law 76 years ago, we wouldn't have gotten to where we are today. And compare this to Ukraine and see, did the Ukrainian people had to argue the case with London or Washington or Paris or any other Western capital? No, it was straightforward. Sanctions on Russia, and they actually helped the Ukrainian resistance via arms. So this is a time when we create real leverage against a state actor that has been found by the ICJ, by the ICC, by numerous international organizations to be in flagrant violations of the very basic provisions of international law.
Mr. Zomlot, thank you very much for joining us on the program.